So welcome to the first ever JFJ Performance Code podcast. This is the open edition. We've got a special show lined up for you today. We've got some special guests on the program who'll be helping me to analyze the old course itself and some of this year's serious contenders. We'll be joined by Carlos Rodiles, former European Tour player, and also the 1992 British Amateur Champion, Mr. Stephen Dundas, who also played in the 93 British Open. So stay tuned and enjoy the show. Okay, so really delighted to be joined by former European Tour player Carlos Rodiles. Also, Carlos was a former student. We worked together for a number of years. Carlos is I'll say retired golfer, Carlos, but was it last summer or summer before you shot, 61, 62 around a local golf course around here? So you obviously still got it?
Yeah, a couple of summers ago. Local golf course is the golf course I work at right now, so obviously I'm very familiar with it. And it was during a men's roll-up, playing with some of the members. But that was just a one-day thing. I don't get to play that much anymore. But that day everything clicked, and those days when everything clicked, I can still take it low.
He's got it. You're very modest. You've got a lot of skill, Carlos. So let's have a quick intro video of Carlos. For those of you who don't know who Carlos is, Carlos played on the European Tour for many years. We've got a nice little video here. So this is going back in time, Carlos. 2000.
Once again to Sunday. Jakobsen and Rodiles, nothing between them. They're on the par 3 12.
Like the Tour Championship back in those days.
Reuters stats show the man who's played better than anybody else in this tournament from tee to green is this fella here, Carlos Rodiles. Fine display so far as he tees off on the par 3 12th coming down the hill.
I'm looking at it now.
Every green in regulation so far today. There's another. And he's hit 80% of the right numbers so far this week. And around this.
So it's good to be on the green.
It's good to be on the green. So that year didn't quite go your way. Hell of a tournament though. So you led going into the last hole. Mr. Jakobsen was very fortunate from the trees, I believe, on the left. He made a birdie, you made a bogey, and then you had a 4-hole playoff, which he just pipped you to, but obviously one of your many great tournaments. So thanks for being on the show, Carlos. Right, so what we're going to do first up, we're going to look at the famous 17th hole at St Andrews. Obviously, that's a hole you've played many times. It's a bruise of a hole. It will certainly, I'm sure, have a deciding factor in the outcome of this year's Open Championship. Let's see what we have with the video. If we get VT rolling, here we go.
Which wins and loses events.
So we're kind of going through a couple of bits here of working backwards. So many like it and most respect it, and certainly a lot fear it. It's definitely been a hole, as we said, over the years that's played a huge factor, I think, in determining and making and breaking a lot of players' hopes or dreams at the Open.
It's a magnificent hole.
Shots here.
How talented
there's trouble everywhere. From the tee shot, second shot, even the green very narrow. So it's just a daunting hole, and it's second to last hole of the day and second of last hole, to the end of the tournament. So a lot of the things are going to be decided there for sure.
So you can see there, tee shot, you're really aiming over the old course hotel. So it's a blind tee shot, so it's quite intimidating, isn't it? And then you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You've got out of bounds on the right, thick rough on the left. How did you used to play that hole, Carlos? Did you used to favour a fade, or did you try to go over the corner and hit a draw?
Well, we were supposed to go over the O of old. As you hit your tee shot, you can see the old course written on the wall of the hotel, right about there. You can see it. So, so my aiming line was over the O, but that was back 15 years ago. I'm sure now they can go over the a lot further right. You can see there the old course. So I'm sure they can go a lot further right now because the boys nowadays hit it so much longer. Ideally you would want to fade it, yeah. You would want to aim a little bit farther left and try to cut it in like that one.
That was a bit like that tee shot there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Jason Day, he's setting up way left for a fade, but he's kind of double crossed it, and he's going to end up in the thick rough on the left. That's
correct.
The penalty if you don't get it right.
yeah, most of the times, especially the way they set up the course for the Open, you won't be able to reach the green from there. So it becomes a three shot hole to get to the green. But then if you overcut it, you got out of bounds waiting for you on the right. So which is even worse. So so there's no bailout. You just have to obviously depending how you're doing, and if you've got a couple shot lead, you're going to go a little bit farther left. That's for sure. If you need to make a birdie, you're going to want to take it down the right side. But that's only
Tiger's done it there with an iron, isn't he? So that's obviously a good
correct. But that's only the beginning, because then the second shot. Even if you're in the middle of the fairway, with your tee shot, the second shot it's still very difficult, especially when they place the pin just behind the bunker on the left. It's very difficult to get that the ball close to the hole. So you need to still aim to the middle of the green. Always keep it right at the bunker and take your chances on a 20 footer for birdie.
Yeah. So we'll now run VT. So actually worth mentioning, this was my fault for not mentioning at the start. Got a message in the ear from Calvin. So you famously, or you played in the famous 2006 Open Championship, the year that Tiger Woods won. I don't know if we've got that video there, Calvin. How was that experience for you?
Well, it was incredible. I mean, from the moment you get there, the way you get treated by the RNA, they escort you to registration, and even from the very early days of the week, you've got thousands of people, greeting you and watching you on the course. As per Tiger, that week, it was a very special week, very emotional for him, because I think that was the first major after his father passed away, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. And you can see, how emotional he was, and you could see the intensity he had from the very beginning. He wanted that one probably more than he's wanted any other major. It was an extremely dry summer. The course was very dry and playing very, very quick. The rough looked thick, but it was not. It was very light. It was high, but very light. So when I was playing the practice rounds, you have to remember that back in those days, Tiger, he still is very long, but back in those days, he was by far the longest hitter on tour. And I thought that he was just going to bomb driver in every hole, because he could get it very close to the greens in most par fours, and the rough was quite light, so he could get out of it very easily. But no, he hardly hit any drivers. He played the course, even with his length, he played the course the same way that anybody else could have played it. And he was hitting a lot of stingers, 2 irons, keeping the ball in play. And he still shot 18 under, which was superb. It was incredible.
Yeah. Definitely had a bit of a tussle there with Chris DeMarco, as he did in the 2005 Masters, but obviously Tiger again coming out on top. See, I think he's right. I think you're right. He hit one driver, I think, in the whole tournament, and actually that wasn't a good one.
No, it was incredible. It was incredible. One other note of that week, it's that it was Seve's last major appearance. And of course, for me, being Spanish and being able to be there with Seve, and his son was caddying for him. And I remember I went and talked to him, and I said, until I've experienced what it is playing one of these majors, I haven't come to realize what it is to win 5 of these. Five majors, or in his case, he won 3 Opens. So. It was just magnificent to be there with him and experience, what it is to play on an Open.
Absolutely.
It was obviously, the latest years of his career, and he was not in top form, but you could still see early on the practice rounds, that he would attract 80% of the crowd that was there. They were watching Seve, and you had Sergio, you had other really good players going about, but the crowd just went with Seve. So it was great to watch.
He certainly was a legend, and actually very popular in the UK. But we'll come back to Sevi in a bit. So let's get back to the 17th. So we've seen how to do it and how not to do it off the tee. Let's look at the what can happen now with the second shot. So we've got some videos now. We've got let's show a video of Constantino Rocca battling the road at the back sort of right of the green on 17. So interesting choice. He went with a putter here, putted it off the tarmac, bimbled it up the slope. Actually made a great job of it there. It's got it to pretty much sort of 5-6 feet. And then obviously got Mr. Jimenez going the other option, smashing it against the wall. No backswing. Getting it up on the green in true relaxed Jimenez style, as you know him very well as well. So that's obviously an interesting couple of combinations. What have you been on the actual road itself when you've played the old course?
I'm sure I've probably been there. I don't remember it. I mean, most of the 99% of the times you get free drops out of road, so it's not something that we practice. It's pretty much just on links courses, and especially there in San Andreas on that road, that you have to just play the ball as it lies. I mean, you've showed two great shots, one from Constantino and one from Jimenez, with good results, excellent results. But you got to think that probably 95% of the players that have attempted that, they failed, and they've left that hole with doubles, triples, or even quads. So
Yeah.
So it's definitely an obstacle that you need to try to avoid. For sure.
Well, let's show you the other side of the coin, which is the dreaded bunker on the 17th, and let's actually show you a quad. I think we've got a quad and a quintuple bogey to show you. So we've got the famous Tommy Nakajima. I think this is from the. I'm going to say this is from either the 90. Yeah, there you go, 1978. Open. So you've been up there with Jack Nicklaus, one off the lead. He's putted into the bunker, and then as you can see here, he takes a few to get out. Wasn't probably his best moment in terms of golfing memories. He looks quite perplexed, hands on the hips. I think the crowd are in shock what they're seeing, still not getting out. And I think this is what can happen, isn't it? It's a very steep wall. It's a very flat bunker as well. There's no real upslope by the lip. Finally gets out of the bunker, 2 putts from there, walks off with a 9. So that was his Open Championship gone.
Yeah.
And then let's see. We'll see one more before we talk about that. Let's see David Duval. So more recently, this was 2000. Tiger was dominating the tournament. Duval was in second place at the time. Let's see Mr. Duval and what. So he's already taken a couple, and now you can see the severity here of the face. Very, very steep lip. I mean, it's a vertical wall. He's actually got no option here. So think about this: a player of his level, number one in the world at the time, pretty much, is now played a backhander. And then obviously he's got no option now. He's almost coming out away from the flag. Lucky to get that out, actually. That takes a deflection off the bank and just dribbles over the lip. So again, have you been in the famous road hole bunker?
Yes. I've been there a few times, and I do recall one particular time, which was very, very important for me at the time. I think it was 2000, and it was the first time I actually lost my tour card. But I think that was the second to last tournament of the year that I'm in links, and I think I needed a top 10 around there, or top 8 to keep my card. And I was doing very, very well in the tournament. I was playing in the final round with Padraig Harrington and Lee Westwood and JP McManus. He was the amateur partner of Padraig Harrington. And I think getting standing on the 17th tee, I must have been right about there. I must have been top 8, maybe 6th or 7th for the tournament. In fact, you start making your numbers, and that was such a big tournament. It was probably the second biggest tournament of the year for us, money-wise. So you're thinking, okay, if I can par here and birdie 18 was playing downwind, and it's a fairly good chance for birdie. You go all of a sudden from not only just keeping your car, but maybe finishing third or fourth and getting into the Volvo Masters. So it was huge. Yeah, correct. So it was huge for me, and I hit a very good tee shot, and the wind was down of the right. So I think I had an 8-iron for my second shot, and I was on the fairway, and I hit this really, I was playing very well that day, and I aimed just right, and I was carrying the wind. It was right at the flag, maybe too much at the flag. Ideally I would have wanted to be 5 meters right of the flag, and it just hit the top of the bunker and came down into the bunker. Padraig Harrington, he had his driver was a few yards longer than mine, so he was hitting after me. He hit and did the exact same thing into the bunker. So the way they rake the bunkers in the downhill are not as severe as when they do it on the open. So even if you're in that bunker, you still have a chance to get it out. Granted that you're not right against the lip. If you're anywhere from the middle back or middle front of the bunker, you can get it out, no problem. So we're walking towards the bunker, and I can spot 2 balls. One's pretty much dead, and the other one's perfect. Right in the middle. From part of the bunker, easily to get out. And of course, right there, I'm like, well, one's mine and one's Padraig. Let's hope mine's the one that's towards the front side of the bunker. But no, it was the other way around. Unfortunately, Padraig's ball was perfect. Mine was against the lip. I ended up making a 7, and he made a par. Then I birdied the 18th hole, but that just placed me just outside the top 10, and I lost my car by a couple thousand euros, not much. So that bunker did get me, and it's so dependent on where the ball lies. If you think you can actually get it out going towards the hole, you have the option to go left towards the 18th tee, and then from there you can actually putt it on the green and try to make a 5 or 6, or you can go backwards, you can go towards the right. There are different options, but if you can go at the flag, the best you're going to do is make bogey. You're hoping for a bogey, but even if you make a 6, it's going to be a good score. Yeah. Of course, Padraig got it up and down and made his 4.
Luck of the Irish. Plus, he's got a good short game. So,
No, absolutely.
He's done that a few times over the years. That's a good story, that one, Carlos. So we'll move on to the 18th, Carlos. So, obviously, as you said, it's probably thought of largely as a birdie hole. It's certainly displayed some drama over the years. Let's start off with our first clip. So the first clip should be of the famous Mr. Doug Sanders. Don't know. There we go. Famous purple outfit. Didn't look comfortable. Very low hands. And then very unusually from his routine here, he then spots a stone, picks it up, goes straight back. So nowadays you'd see a full routine and marking the ball, but just kind of goes straight in, still shuffling, does not look comfortable. This to win the Open. This is to win the 1970 Open, to beat Jack Nicklaus by 1 shot. And, oh dear. So quite a nasty little left to right runoff on that green, slope-wise. Taps that in. And then obviously he's then got an 18-hole playoff, as it was back in those days, with the famous Mr. Jack Nicklaus. He's going back and he's absolutely ruining that putt and thinks, oh my goodness me, what have I done? We've all been there as golfers. And I think as the video goes on, we will see, as he strides off the green, we shall see Mr. Nicklaus the following day then make his putt. So what do you think of that one there, Carlos? That's probably one of the worst feelings in golf. No, you and I haven't experienced that, I guess, but 3 footers to win a major.
You're obviously into teaching, and you've got an academy with children that they get taught everywhere from the mental side, the physical side, to the technical part of golf, and everything that you teach is not what he did on that putt. I mean, as you
We
said,
hope
I mean,
so.
he didn't look comfortable over it. He he stood too long over the pod. I know it was very windy. I mean, you could see it was very windy. So when it's that windy, not even a 3-footer, it's it's easy to make. But and then in the middle of the routine, when he was about to pull the trigger, he spots something, and he gets there. Instead of getting back behind the ball or even marking the ball again and starting his routine, he just went and again stood for another 10-15 seconds. So. But it's very difficult, you just gather too much tension on your arms, and too many things go over your head, and I mean you can still make the putt, but chances are that you're just not going to produce a good stroke, and you could miss. So it's unfortunate, and especially for somebody like him, that he's not a person that probably is going to get many chances to win majors, and then having to go out on a playoff with Jack Nicklaus, the best played GOAT, greatest of all time, and what the result was going to be on that playoff. So it's a pity.
So here is Nicklaus. So this is the following day. They actually were tied going down the 18th hole. This was the putt to win. Putter's gone flying up in the air. That was for birdie. Didn't take anybody out with the putter, which was really important. Jack Nicklaus, he drove it through the back of the green, chipped it to there, hold that putt. And that was good enough actually for a one-shot victory over Doug Sanders. So that was one of Jack's many Open titles. There is the sorrowful Mr. Doug Sanders, and he now holds it and probably thinks, why didn't I do that yesterday?
He's so relaxed now. He's so relaxed now. He knows that it's over, so he holds the putt. Yeah, I mean, it's just what a shame.
Yeah, great, and as always great sportsmanship from Jack Nicklaus. And
going back to the 18th, we spoke about the 17th hole before being, probably the hardest hole on the course. There's trouble everywhere: daunting tee shot, the bunker, the road, a very, very narrow green. So there's trouble everywhere. Now you get to the 18th, and it's the opposite. It's probably the widest tee shot on the course. It could even be the easiest hole on the course, except maybe for the par 5, the 5th or the 6th, I can remember, which it's very birdable.
Yeah.
But the first, it has to be one of the top 2 easiest holes on the course. As I said, widest tee shot. Even if it plays downwind, you can reach even with a 3-wood. If it plays into the wind, you can still hit your driver, and you're still hitting a wedge or a 9-iron to a well-sized green. So it's just two opposites, 17 and 18, and that's what's so great about that tournament. A lot of shots can be made up on those last 2 holes.
Good. So we'll talk about the amphitheatre that it is in a second. Let's now show, as we talked about earlier, a good friend of yours, Mr. Seve. Let's show Seve this is from 1984, a very famous moment. Tom Watson there just walking off the 17th, made a bogey. They were neck and neck. Pretty much at the same time, Seve's now faced with this birdie putt, which will eventually prove a winning putt. What about this for a putt, Carlos?
It's incredible because it does not look like it's going to go in, and it just curves 90 degrees left in the last inches. It's something we've watched over and over. His famous logo has to do with that, with his correct. And for us as Spaniards, that's when I was pretty much, picking a club for the first time. It inspired everybody here in Spain, especially the young kids, starting in the game. So yeah.
Yeah, that was one of his 3 Open victories. Obviously, then he would follow that up 4 years later with a win in '88 over Faldo and Price. Next up, we've got, this is an interesting one. This was, I guess, my version of, for you, Seve, Nick Faldo. He was very much kind of my inspiration growing up and kind of inspiring me to play the game. So this is the first round, 18th hole, 1990. Greg Norman had posted a round of 6 under. So as back in those days, as we know, it's very much Faldo and Norman. They were kind of the 2 big rivals. Talk us through this one. So Faldo just short of the green, and he's got that sort of Scottish bump and run shot. What do you think of this shot, Carlos?
Yeah, you've got many options there. he obviously bumped and run it, but I mean, you've got players that have putted it from there. Well, that's incredible. Yeah, I mean, to be able to judge that well and to hold that, it's incredible. But there's so many options. I mean, that's probably I would say the most commonly used one by somebody like Faldo or some of these top players. Those that feel the pressure a little bit more, they go with the putter. I mean, now you could even use your rescue or your 5-wood, to just sort of with a putting motion get a rolling. And then you have some of the Americans, in the early days that they would just get their 60 and try to flop it up onto the green. So there's no. That's the thing. The good thing about links golf, in opposition to the parkland or the American courses, where there's only one shot that you can play, which is just opening your 60-degree and flopping up into the green. There, the links courses give you so many different options, and there's not a correct one. I mean, it's the one you feel more comfortable with. You got to go out there on the practice round and practice a lot of those shots, because you're going to be faced with a lot of those shots. I mean, you have to think that also on links courses, sometimes you can't go at a pin. Sometimes you have to take your medicine, and you have to play away from the pin, and odds are that you're going to end up off the green, having to bump and run it or putt it from long distances. So you really, really, really need to do a good job in the practice rounds, judging your distances, from off the green. But there's so many options, so many, different type of shots that you can play. That's the greatness of playing links courses.
I guess that's one of the reasons why Seve was so good. He was so creative. He could see, as you said, sometimes there's shots where you got to play away from the flag, and actually sometimes it was a benefit as well. I guess you can use slopes, which can then help you, and maybe other direct routes, which can hurt you. So. And you could
say on the American side, Tiger was the first American who actually started playing all of those shots. He could bump and run it. He could take his 5-wood and just hit it as a putt. He could putt it. He could flop it. He could do everything. So that's why he was also so successful in links play.
Very versatile player and a lot of skill as well. Good. All right. So let's. So Faldo's we just saw there on the first round holdout. Let's take a look at Faldo in the last round of 1990. So at that point in time, that was a record. He got to scoring record. He got to 18 under par. This was very much, I think, the virtuoso performance of Faldo's career. Kind of really destroyed the field there. Pretty much there from start to finish. And obviously a great reception. And that was his second Open Championship title. Obviously, he won first time around in '87, and went on to win again in '92. Had a little bit of a kiss from his caddy Fanny Sunderson, who you know as well. So that was a pretty impressive victory, no?
Yeah, that was. I mean, I think Faldo, it's one of the few players that you could say when he was, at his best, that he was in full control of his game. I mean, you can't even say that from Seve. Seve was never in full control of his game, I don't think. I mean, he was always creative and having to make up shots, having to play from rough places. But Faldo, I mean, he was like a machine. He was a robot. I mean, he was. I mean, you could even say it was boring to watch at times because he was, so perfect. Middle of the fairway. Pin right, aim to the middle of the green, cut it into the pin left, aim to the middle of the green, draw it into the pin. And he would just produce a good shot after shot. So he was amazing when he was in his heydays. So I think it wasn't him that he had 18 pars on an Open as well in the final round of an Open. I don't know if it was to win or to. I think it was to win.
Yeah, that's right. 1987. 1987, going head to head with Paul Azinger, who actually had the lead on him. And as you said, he had the famous 18 pars in a row, and that was incredible. Good enough with a faltering Azinger. So that was his first major win.
No, he's obviously one of the best ever, and very different from a lot of the players and the way he played. It was just so perfect in every aspect of it. Never tried something that's that he couldn't actually, that he knew he couldn't do. He stuck very much with his game plan, and had a wonderful caddy on Fanny, Carl's sister, and
that's a good little joke that that Carlos and I have. So a good friend of ours, student of mine, I guess, as well. Carl Sunderson, no relation to Fanny, we should add.
No relation.
Yeah, Carl Sunderson is a.
But she was she was a great caddy. She's caddied for the best, and and she helped Faldo a lot during his winning years for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she was very detailed, and as he was. I think there was a famous joke. It might even been at that tournament where she's given him a call and asked him about what sort of texture bristles Faldo would like in his toothbrush. So she's obviously buying some of his toiletries for him at the time as well. So that shows you how efficient she was. Obviously, later on, she would go on to caddy for other famous players like Henrik Stenson. Okay, yep. We've now got a really interesting clip. This was a classic. So 1995 Open Championship at Skegness St Andrews, 18th hole. Mr. Constantino Roque needed to get up and down just short of the green to get into a playoff with John Daly. Duffs the chip. Daly thinks it's all over. Daly thinks it's all won, cuddling his girlfriend, and then watches Constantino do this. How about that, Carlos?
That's incredible. That's probably 1 in 100 that you're going to hold that putt. Unfortunately, then, I say unfortunately, for me, because I got to know Constantino Roque, and I spent a lot of time with him, had a lot of wonderful dinners with him on my days on the European Tour. He was a very sociable and great guy to hang around. So I would have wished that it would have been him winning the Open. But yeah, unfortunately for me and for Constantino, Daly then got the best of him on the playoff. I think he was drained after holding that putt, and there was no more energy left in the tank. And you can see he didn't play a very good playoff after that. But to hold that putt from there, 18th hole, 72nd hole of the Open, to get into a playoff, it's another of the great stories of this wonderful sport of golf, and I'm sure it just everybody was jumping, from their sofas watching on TV as he was holding that putt. So it was very, very, very exciting to watch.
Amazing drama, that's for sure. So I think have you come across? So obviously Constantino was a little bit of a victim there on his chip on the with the Valley of Sin. Has it caught you out in the past when you've played it? So that's the Valley of Sin, that little dip, just for you folks that don't know.
I probably wouldn't have chipped it from there, especially under that pressure. So no, I would have just grabbed my putter and and try to putt it out there. Texas wedge, within a respectable distance, and then try to get myself a chance of making four. At the end, it didn't cost him because he got it down in two from there. A different way to get it down in two, but that's what we were saying before. He felt comfortable with chipping it at the first place. But I think probably a very high percentage of the players nowadays would never play that shot that he attempted on the first on his first try. So it didn't haunt him, but but I wouldn't recommend trying to play that shot from that position. That's for sure, especially in the 72nd hole of a golf tournament.
So I think that's the Valley of Sin, as you said, is very much that kind of big dip that's at the front of the green. Probably the only defense of the hole, as you said, isn't it? Because it's the widest fairway. It's about Correct. 350 yards, but playing hard and fast and bouncy, so it plays pretty short. It's quite funny though, because in the clips we've seen so far, we've only seen one guy who's actually driven the green. That was Nicholas in the playoff where he drove it through the back. Everybody else has kind of been short and some sort of wedge distance going onto the green with the second shot. So it's interesting. We've not seen too many players actually drive the green.
Well, it's they have the distance to reach, but they're so depending on the bounce. There's humps and everywhere all along the way. So you could get you gotta get the perfect bounce for the ball to stop on the green. If you get a downhill bounce, you're going to go over the green. If you get an uphill bounce, the ball's going to die and it's not going to quite make it to the green. So even though it's reachable, you still depend on where the ball, bounces, or where the ball bounces first, on the fairway to determine whether the ball's going to end up on the green or long or short. So it's not actually that easy to actually drive the green.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because obviously there's out of bounds just lurking behind the green. So yeah, that's a very good point to factor in. All right, let's have a look. Let's jump forward from 95. So Tiger Woods famously won 2 Opens, 2000, 2005. Let's have a look at 2000 when he was very much in his prime, off the back of a destroying performance of the rest of the field in the US Open. And he now just dominates the Open Championship here. So if memory serves me correctly, he's won by some sort of 8, maybe 9 shots in this performance. So he's taken the route. He's gone out well to the left, giving himself almost like probably about a 60, 70 yard wedge distance into the green. Let's take a look at Tiger hitting this one. Obviously a massive lead, so he doesn't really need to push for a birdie. Let's see where he is now. There he is. So have you played the hole yourself in this way, sort of going more out to the left off the tee and sort of coming in from this angle?
Well, when it's into the wind, definitely. If it's playing into the wind, or if there's no wind, and yeah, you see he goes a bit long there. He's trying to avoid the valley of sin. But yeah, I mean that's the route you take when it's into the wind, or you know, even if there's no wind and you can't reach, but you don't want to get too close to the green, you can hit an iron off the tee and just go left, and it leaves you a comfortable, whatever, you know, 70, 80, 90 yard shot, you know, onto, as I said, a very wide green. So yeah, I played it that way many times, and you just got to be sharp with your, you know, with your distances, with your second shot, with your 80, 90 yard shot. And, you know, also depending on what, you know, if you need a birdie, you can be a little bit more aggressive, or otherwise you can just, you know, as he did, he didn't need a birdie at that stage. So he just went a little bit long. And yeah, you can see he won by 8 shots there. So that's another way of playing the hole. Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, nowadays, you know, players are so aggressive and they hit it so long that I think most of them, unless it's into the wind, most of them are just going to try to go for the green.
Yeah, I think we've got some footage later on of Mr. Woods going for the green in the practice round. I think knocking it on from 352. So that was obviously very impressive with Tiger, 2000, 2005. Let's go to 2000. We're going to skip 2010, which was won by Louis Oosthuizen. We've now got 2015, Zach Johnson. So we had Mark Leishman, Oosthuizen, and Zach Johnson in a playoff. It was also quite an interesting tournament at the time because you had Jordan Spieth was on the back of winning the first 2 majors of the year, and he was tied for the lead. Spieth bogeyed 17, so it just took him out of the running. Johnson needed this putt for a birdie on the last and makes it, which then got him into the playoff. What about that for a putt, Carlos?
One of the best putters in the world, Zach Johnson. That's you know, where he's based most of his victories is in putting and 100 yards and in. So that hole, you know, worked perfect for him. You know, he knows he's going to get it somewhere, you know, within 100 yards. He's great at, you know, hitting those sort of shots, and then he was probably at that time the best putter in the world. So I mean, you still have
playoff.
Yeah,
this just very quickly. This was the playoff here. This was Louis to keep the playoff going. And then Zach Johnson taking a bit of a moment there. I think he just realised he's won the US Open. He looks a bit shell-shocked. And I think it's now sunk in.
Yeah.
So I remember you played with Louis, didn't you, in an Open qualifying? That would have probably been about 2007, I think.
I played with Louis a lot because he started on the European tour. As you know, as most of South Africa and Australian players, they start on the European tour, and then the ones that are really, really good, they move on to the PGA tour. So I did play a lot of golf with Louis, and wonderful swing. But going back to Zach Johnson, I mean, he is one of the greatest overachievers in the game of golf. I mean, he's a wonderful player. I mean, you could see that he would win, you know, a number of regular tour events, but you wouldn't think his game suited majors, and especially the Masters. You know, he won the Masters, which is incredible, and also winning the you know, the Open at St Andrews with his length. Obviously, I mean, he's going to struggle.
I think he lost in the playoff in the Masters, didn't he? Schwartzel won the Masters, but I don't think Louis ever won the Masters.
No, I'm talking about Zach Johnson. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Jack Johnson. Sorry.
No. I'm not talking about Louis. No, I've switched to Zach Johnson. I'm saying Zach Johnson is one of the greatest overachievers, of golf. I mean, you could see he's got a wonderful game, and that, he would win a number of regular tour events. But you wouldn't think, he'd feature on some of these majors, especially because he didn't have the length and the way they set up the courses for the majors, especially in the last 10, 15 years. I mean, you gotta, be able to hit the ball long. So he won the Masters, which is incredible, and he won the Masters. I think he did not go for one par 5 and 2, or just a couple of them. Going on to the par 5s and 3, and probably at St Andrews it was the same. He was playing against all of these guys that were driving the 18th and going into the par 5s in 2, even probably driving the 7th or the 6th, and he was just having to withstand that pressure, playing with his length and just being really, really good from 140 yards in and holding putts. So hats off to Zach Johnson, because he's had a wonderful career. And he was very one-dimensional. I mean, Zach Johnson would always hit a draw. I mean, he could not hit a cut, especially in his early days. I don't know, he's probably able to do it now, but his cut was more like a push. So for somebody
very strong grip, isn't he? Very strong lead hand and trail hand grip.
Yeah. So for somebody that has an average distance of the tee and then can only sort of hit a draw, I mean, granted, he would always hit the same draw. He was so perfect at it. But even then, he was limited at attacking some of the pins, but he made up by making good putts because he was the best putter in the world. So as I said, one of the greatest overachievers in the game.
Yeah, sorry, I'd had a senior moment there. I thought, Louis Oosthuizen, he's not a great player.
No. I switched back to Zach. Yeah. No. Louis is a different story. Louis is just a wonderful player all around, and in fact, he's had chances to win a lot of more majors. He's only won the Open, but he's had chances to win the Masters a few times. I mean, maybe not now, but in the past 10 years, he's one of those players that has always contended on the majors because he hits the ball so well. And his game suits playing difficult courses and major courses. So he was always up there on the majors. So he's won probably less majors than he might have deserved.
Yeah, he's definitely had a few close calls, isn't he? Finished up runner-up to Rahm in the US Open, PGA behind Mickelson, lost in a playoff, as we know, in the Masters. So yeah, Louis certainly been a great player. Right, Carlos, I'm going to put you on the spot now. Who, in your opinion, is going to be the winner of this year's Open Championship, the 150th Open Championship?
I think it gets harder and harder to actually predict who's going to win because there's so many good players. If I go with my heart, I'm hoping Jon Rahm wins it. Why do I think he's going to do good? I mean, obviously he does well in most majors, but it's a special date, 150th Open anniversary. It's he said that he vividly records heavy winning in '84 on that course. He hasn't been playing great lately, or at least his results haven't shown the way he's been playing. And I think it's going to click. It's all going to come out in this event. And he's focused. He probably circled this tournament at the beginning of the year in his calendar, and he's probably prepared well for this event. So as a Spaniard and knowing John, I mean, I'm hoping that he could win it. Who else is playing well? I mean, you've got obviously Rory's been playing well lately, and he's also someone that enjoys playing links golf, and I think he's won the Dunhill before, I think, if I'm not wrong. So he knows that course well.
Possibly.
Or he's future well with the Dunhill.
He's definitely played well. But do you think that Rory wants it too much? Do you think he kind of gets too emotional? I think any player is going to know that it's the the sense of history, the 150th Open, but do you not get that feel with Rory? He just gets too emotional, he wants it too much.
Yeah, but he's too good. I mean, he's too good. He's like that, and obviously he's going to have to fight his nerves and his desire to win. It's all going to be very psychological. It's all going to depend on how he starts and how he finishes. He needs to get himself in contention, and then he needs to produce a good final round, which he's hasn't been able to do that lately. Especially if he's leading the tournament. He does come from behind well, but if he's up there on the top, he has to, contain his nerves, and it's very much a psychological battle. But he's such a good player that he could, any given tournament he could play well, and he's been playing well lately. And then you have Sander Schauffele. I mean, he's Sander Schauffele. I mean, he's won the last 2 events he's played on. Obviously, he's riding a wave now, and he's confident. And when you're confident at that level, you produce 68s and 69s like nothing. On a bad day you shoot 68. When you're not confident, you're hitting the ball great, and it doesn't matter what you do. You shoot 72, 73, but when you're confident, it doesn't matter how bad you play. You end up shooting 68 or 69. Don't ask me how, but that's how it works. I've experienced it myself. So obviously he's very confident now, and so I expect him to do. He's also a great player, so he can do well. But as I said, I mean, there's so many that could win it. I'm going to go with Ram just because he's Spanish. I know he wants it. He's usually good under pressure, and I'm going to be pulling for him for sure. Yeah.
Very good. Great. Some great tips there. I think, as you said, Schauffele is arguably the best player who's playing now who not to have won a major. I think maybe with his track record, obviously he's got the gold in the Olympics last summer, but still not a major. But yeah, let's look out for your tips and how your guys go. Carlos, as always, been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for your great insights. Been great to have you on the show. I think we'll have to get you on the show in the future. We'll maybe do some stories and tales from the tour over the years. We'll have share some stories that we've had maybe in the past. But thanks very much. Enjoy the Open Championship, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you, Jace. I hope you enjoyed as well, and I hope it's a great Open. Whatever happens, I hope it comes down the stretch, and we don't have one guy winning by a big margin and making it boring on the last day. So let's hope it's a close call.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Thanks again, Carlos. Good to see you.
Thank you. Take care, Jay. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, we're joined by Stephen Dundas. Stephen, thank you very much for coming onto the show. So Stephen was the 1992 amateur champion, and therefore played in the British Open, or the Open Championship, I should call it, in 1993 at Royal St George's. How was that experience for you, Stephen?
First of all, thank you for the very kind invite, Jason. Yeah, I mean, playing in the Open Championship is basically being British. It's kind of every sort of boyhood dream to play in the British Open or the Open. Stand on the first tee, walk up the 18th, with all the stands. Yeah, I mean, it didn't disappoint. The atmosphere was incredible. If my memory is correct, it was the lowest scoring Open of all time.
That's right. So you were competing and playing against the likes of, obviously, Nick Faldo, who went very much head-to-head with Greg Norman. I think you had Bernard Langer up there, Corey Pavin up there. I think you had some of the biggest, baddest guys out there at the time. That must have been a pretty unbelievable experience just to be around those big names, no?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Bernard Langer. I actually played a practice round that week with Bernard Langer, and we talked a lot about strategy and stuff, and he always said he was going to play a 1-iron off the 14th tee on the par 5, and I think in the last round he was 1 or 2 shots behind, and he took a driver, and I remember watching it on TV thinking, no, don't hit your driver. And he hit his driver, and he hit it out of bounds, and I think he ended up losing by 1 or 2 shots in the end.
Yeah.
But played with Vijay Singh that week, Fuzzy Zoller, Paul Lawrie, who went on to become Open champion as well. So yeah, it was a pretty incredible week.
Pretty unique experience. Great. And let's take a look at some of the past winners of the Open. Let's get that up on our screen, and let's see some standout names that we've got here. So I think when you look at that, obviously the guys who've won multiple times, we've got Sir Nick Faldo on there, 3-time winner, multiple winner, and Tom Watson. Tiger Woods with his 3 wins, and Tiger was also a back-to-back winner in 05, 06. Harrington in 08 and 09. Who amongst that list stands out for you, Stephen?
Obviously Tiger stands out, probably the greatest player of all time, certainly of my generation. But 4 personal ones actually that stand out. Nick Price was kind of like the guy I kind of modelled my swing on, and I got to play with him 9 holes at Augusta.
So he was a winner in '94.
He was a winner in '94 at Turnberry. Then obviously Tom Watson, got to play with him in the first round at the US Masters, and then Harrington, who I beat in the British Amateur at Carnoustie, which is where he won his first British Open.
Yeah, beating Sergio in the playoff.
Yeah. So those would be the ones that stand out for me. And then Nick Faldo, I think, when he was, back in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, he basically just looked like he was never going to hit a bad golf shot, ever. So yeah, those would be the ones that I would look at, and especially for British Opens, think that those guys were definitely up there and some of the best in the world.
Which one of the 3 Faldo Opens impressed you the most? Because obviously he had quite distinctive wins. 97, he obviously had his famous 18 pars in the final round. 90, he broke the tournament scoring record of 18 under, won by a mile.
Yeah.
And then obviously 92 was leading the tournament the whole way around, fell back, and then pipped John Cook in the last 5 holes with a bit of a comeback. Which one of those 3 stood out for you?
I think all 3 of them have a very interesting story. I think 87 at Muirfield was obviously a culmination of 2 years or 2.5 years of really hard work, and he saw the fruits of his labour, basically. So that was pretty emotional from that side.
So for those of you who don't know, Faldo famously remodelled his golf swing started in 1985 with my ex-boss, Mr. David Ledbetter.
Yeah.
And
whilst he was European #1 at the time.
That's right. And then they were famously both ridiculed a bit, and what they're doing, as you say, going from European #1 to in the doldrums, and then he bounces back and became the player that he became.
Yeah, so, and then 1990 was basically the ultimate performance. I mean, like I said, it just looked like he was never going to hit a bad shot, so that was kind of, just him at his absolute peak.
Yeah, interesting strategy that week. So he changed from his normal lofted driver, which was about 11 degree tailor-made driver, and he went to a 6 degree lofted driver that week just to hit the low ball flight.
There you go. So equipment also very important. And then 92, I think he won at Muirfield. I always remember I think it was a 2-iron he hit to the 18th, almost hit the flag. Yeah, so that showed a great sort of character, because again, he was probably the favourite or one of the favourites going into that tournament, and looked like he had it won, and then lost it a little bit, but stayed cool as he always did under pressure. And I think he had a great 4-iron to 17, the par 5, if my memory's correct.
Through the gap.
Birdied that, and then played the last hole absolutely perfectly. So, but I think if I have to choose one, then probably 1990 at St Andrews. For me, that was just the ultimate performance.
Faldo's virtuoso performance. And of course, obviously, Colin Morikawa, who'll be defending this week, winner at Royal St George's, obviously where you played. Really, again, tremendous performance, 265 total score. What do you think he'll be doing this week?
It's a good question. He's not had the best of seasons so far, although the last 3 or 4 weeks looks like he's started to get his game back, or as he said, he's got his fade back. Looked like at the beginning of the season he was working on
the trusty fade.
So he's feeling a bit more comfortable, I guess, with his swing. But I don't think it will be his week.
All right, let's have a look. Let's have a look at the runners and riders for this week. See if we can
get that up on the screen to see who the favourites are. So here we go. Who stands out for you, Stephen, up on that list? Some pretty stellar players there in the field.
I mean, one that pops out you would think is definitely due a win is Zalatoris. His record, although he's very new to the tour and majors, I think he's only played in 10, but he's had so many top 10s and top 5s already. If his putter can behave, I think he's definitely going to have a chance. Seems like he's very good at flighting his ball up and down and shaping it. So I would say as an outside bet, he would be definitely up there. Who else? I think Rory obviously has played very consistent this year. Great thing for Rory this year is his short game has been a lot better, putting in particular. And he's going to have to putt. Anyone that to win you have to putt well, but especially at St Andrews, there's going to be a lot of long putts. You're going to have to hold a lot of 3, 4, 5 footers. So you've got to like Rory's chances.
You like Xander Schauffele?
They always talk about probably the worst thing that you can do coming into a major is win the week before, because it takes a lot of. He's won twice now in the last 2 weeks.
Even 3 times. No, we'll put the JP McManus Prime in. Obviously, he won the Travellers Championship, and then obviously last week the Scottish Open. Yeah,
so he'll be obviously full of confidence.
Do you feel like his game style matches up to the golf course? Do you feel like he can flight it around St Andrews?
Yeah, I think he can. I think most of these guys can, to be perfectly honest. But if you were a betting person, you wouldn't think that he's going to win 4 times in 4 weeks. That's maybe just an ask too much.
Yeah. So we've got Xander Schauffele. So saying Rory, depending on his putting.
I think for me, Rory is not so much depending on his putting, because his putting has been really good. I think mentally more Rory. I think it's been such a long time now since he's won a major. I think 2014 was his last major. I think he's under a lot of pressure, whether it be from the media or for him by himself, to win that next major. And I think if he can win another major, then I think he might win another 4 or 5. But it's getting over that line. It seems like it's been difficult for him in majors over the last 3, 4, 5 years. But he's getting closer.
He's got a good track record around St Andrews. He's, I think, when his first professional debut in the Dunhill Links, went on to finish 3rd. Got his tour card in 2010. Shot what a joint course record, 60, I'm going to say 63. Didn't play in 2015 because of his injury. So I think he's maybe got some unfinished business around that golf course.
I think it'd be a popular win. He's a very, had the pleasure of meeting him actually a couple of weeks ago. Lovely guy, exactly how you see him on TV, and I think it would be a very popular win for sure.
Jordan Spieth, what are your thoughts on Jordan Spieth?
Talking to somebody last week about him, and they were very confident that they think he can do it. I don't. I think his game, although it's trending in the right direction, I don't think his game is where it needs to be to win, contend maybe, but to win a major. I don't think he's there, and I don't think he thinks he's there either. I think that's very important, especially in a big tournament.
So not quite getting the vibes from 2017 when he won.
No, I don't think so. I'll be surprised if he's even in the top 10, to be honest.
All right. We'll have a look at that one. How about the PGA champion, Mr. Justin Thomas?
Yeah, you got to like his chances. Yeah. He, seems like every time he plays, he's in contention. Think for him, it's a matter of whether he putts the way that he can. He's a little bit inconsistent, I think, with the putter. But if he putts well, then for sure he can definitely flight it. Yeah. He's very good at hitting those low shots, but again, the forecast looks like it's pretty decent for the 4 days. So it could be, the case where you don't have to flight it so much and keep it out of the wind. and it could be a real low scoring Open, in which case you're going to have to putt well anyway. So, but he's definitely, you know, played great all year, very consistent. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see him winning for sure.
I think he'd be very happy. I think some of the banter between him and Tiger Woods would be a little bit more evened up now with a claret jug in the cabinet to go with his Wanamaker trophies.
Yeah, I think obviously they're very good friends, and you know he's been on record, you know, talking about how Tiger's helped him a lot in his in the last few years and whatever. So yeah, I think the plane ride home would be interesting. Yeah,
good friends on and off the golf course, that's for sure. So then Tiger Woods, we just touched upon him there. Played very well in the Champions Tournament yesterday. You actually saw him you were at the JP McManus Pro-Am.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of his game there? What do you think of his chances this week?
If we're talking just golf swing is looking fantastic. Ball striking, wow. Even, you know, watching him on the range, and there was another 20 top class players on the range, he was still probably the best. But physically, he really looked like he was struggling. Just walking, just moving, he looked like he was in a lot of pain. So I think to win any tournament, but to win a major, all facets of your game and your physicality have to be at peak performance. And you know, it could be that his swing for sure is in good shape, that physically, how is he going to stand up over 4 rounds?
Well, don't you physically worry that, you know, as he gets half into one of those pot bunkers, how will he actually stabilise himself? You know, that could be quite a big concern.
Absolutely, and you know, St Andrews is not the most. It's not so undulating in terms of obvious hills, but there is very few flat lies. One thing I've learned over the years with Tiger is never to write him off. I did that the last time, and of course he came back, won the Tour Championship, and then won the US Masters. But just having a first-hand look at him up close and personal last week, it would be difficult to see how he's going to play 4 rounds at the highest level in order to not even win, but in order to compete. I think, to be honest, if he makes the cut, it would be a monumental effort. Yes, based on his physicality.
Certainly, I think the sentimental favourite, and he'll definitely be very well followed. Well, I think this year there's definitely some amazing level of players and runners and riders. Let's see how they all perform. Stephen, thank you very much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoy the Open.
Yeah, I will be glued to the television as I always am every year at this time. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Great stuff.
Cheers.
Great, that just leaves us to wrap up the show. So thanks very much for Carlos Rodiles and Stephen Dundas for being on this episode. Always great to get their insights. Hope you enjoy this 150th edition of the Open Championship at St Andrews. If you like the show, then please like and subscribe, and obviously please leave any comments that you may have as to maybe what your favourite Open Championship was. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the JFJ podcast.